Welcome to a fresh YouTube video. My name is Jamie, and those that are new here, I am a podcast editor and podcast coach, and I've seen an article today that kind of has me like laughing, but I am seeing a lot of articles going around that Zoom is not secure. You shouldn't use it. You shouldn't install it. You shouldn't be on it. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, you know that in a previous life, I sold business telephone systems. And one of the things that we did is that we sold teleconferencing software similar to Zoom. And something that I've come to understand for years and years and years is that when there is an issue with a meeting being taken over, maliciously used, it's typically not the software. It's typically the way the meeting has been set up and the way that the user is using the meeting. And so while I am not an expert, my husband reminded me as I've been ranting about this morning that I am not an authority on technology. And so I just want to preface what I'm about to say with, I have no idea if Zoom has malware in it. I have no idea if Zoom is unsecure in the ways that some people are claiming that it is. But what I can tell you is you can protect yourself and you can take the time to lock down many of your Zoom settings to be able to manage this on your own. So on the screen here, you can see I'm in my Zoom web portal. And so this is when you log in, you can see this. You can just click over here on settings. Here's some things that I feel like you need to make sure that you understand what is going on when you are setting up a Zoom, if you are brand new to it, or even if you've been using it for a while and you haven't played around with these settings. So I like to turn start meetings with my videos off, the participants' videos off, and then the audio type on. I like to leave computer and telephone audio. So if you have people that are concerned about joining a Zoom meeting and this is the software that you're comfortable for, there's always a telephone number that they can just phone into and you can have your conference that way. So right now I have my meeting set up so that people can join before the host. So I have that feature turned on right here. You can see when you make a change, it says your setting has been updated and you can choose to reset it. The other thing that I've got right here is that I've asked people, I don't require a password when people join a meeting of mine. You can set up a password when you're scheduling a meeting. The password is embedded in the invite though. And so if you're sending out one email where you just copy and pasted the invite, the password is sitting right in there. My recommendation is not to put the password on a public setting, but to put the password in a private email to the person. Otherwise, it defeats the purpose of setting up a password. You can also authenticate users when they're joining meetings. So users have to put in their email address so you know who they are. If you're recording a meeting, then you can tell who is doing something malicious. But I would recommend, if you're concerned about this, you turn on the authentication to join the meetings. The other thing that you can do is you can also require passwords for participants joined by phone if you're really, really concerned about people having access to your room. You can also enable a feature here to mute participants upon entry. And that basically means that they join the meeting muted. You control whether the participants can unmute themselves inside of the meeting. I literally email out individual links when I'm doing a Zoom conference, and then I send the password 1 hour before. So I don't have a lot of these things enabled because this, for me personally, is not a concern. A couple of other things that you can do is that you can turn off chat and you can prevent participants from being able to save chat or chat with each other. That way I have that turned on because I often chat with my co-hosts or people that I'm hosting a conference with, but you can turn that off. That way people can't be spamming questionable links inside of your Zoom chat. Let's see, you can play a sound when participants join or leave. I turn that off because I'm typically recording a podcast and I don't want that dinging sound to happen, but you can tell when people are joining by turning that on. So if you've already opened up a room and you want to know when someone's coming and going, then you can enable that and it makes a little chime sound. Another thing that is a feature inside of a Zoom meeting is that you can lock the meeting once you've started it. So once all of your participants are there, there's a setting inside of Zoom that allows you to lock the meeting where no one can come and go. That way people can't join maliciously if that is your concern. The other thing that you can do is one last feature down here that I wanted to show you, and that is screen sharing. So I currently have this turned off because I only allow myself to share, but by default, the setting is turned on to all participants. And so if you are concerned again about someone taking over your screen or sharing, turn this off to the host only. That way you as a host are the only one that can share. And you can give people permission inside of the meeting to be able to share their screen, but that's by permissions and not just by default. This is the other feature, disable desktop screen share for users. This is the other way that people are concerned about their Zoom meeting being taken over, is this setting being turned on. There is a whiteboard option inside of Zoom. You can allow participants to share a whiteboard during the meeting. So when you see people talking about like someone drawing on their face or writing racist things, this is how that's happening, is that this whiteboard setting is enabled. Again, I haven't had issues with people joining, and so that is the reason that I don't have a problem. Um, and then the last one is you can choose to remove participants, allowing removed participants to rejoin. So you can turn this on and it will kick people out as a event host for a virtual conference. You can kick people out of your meeting. It's just a matter of being able to understand the controls and understand how it is that you're managing them. But you can allow people to be removed from the meetings during the meeting. I think that that's it as far as the rest of the settings that you should really be checking, just double looking at all of this. I guess there's one other, and that is if you don't want people to join your meeting before you join, that way you can check to see who's there before you start streaming or recording or presenting. You can also uh, limit people from joining before you have joined, before you have begun your webinar. So I am on a conference right now and I am in this by myself, but you can see right here that I have a number of settings that I can control right here from the side. This allows me to be able to control what is happening, and when there's people in the meeting with me, I can manage my participants. I can see everybody here, and I can make decisions on what I want to do by just hovering over their name. You can manage the entire room by coming in under participants, and you can choose, if you haven't updated these settings and you're kind of in meeting, mid-meeting and trying to manage this, you can come in here and say mute the participants on entry. You can allow participants to unmute themselves or uncheck that where you're the only one that control that. You can also enable that play chime for entry or exit, and you can even allow participants to rename themselves, which I don't think is really relevant to this conversation. But here is where you lock the meeting to ensure that the number of people in the room are the number of people that you want there. But under participants is where you can see everyone that is part of your web conference. And that is what makes it simple for you to be able to manage your room. You can also tell who's talking. You can see the little microphone right here goes up and down to tell you who's talking. If they do not have, if their speaker is not enabled, it makes a little red X across the video on the microphone side. So I hope that makes sense. A couple of other etiquette things that I feel like I should mention is that when you're sharing your Zoom links, don't share them in a public setting, or just be prepared to lock this down. Because what's happening, I think, is that a lot of people are sharing their Zoom meetings on a Facebook link, and then someone is grabbing them and maliciously joining your Zoom call. And so that is really probably the bigger issue that is happening. Another pro tip, just to wrap this video up and close it out, is that if you are conducting a meeting where you're going to have more than 10 people, it may not be manageable for you if you are presenting to deal with what is happening on the back end. So what is happening with the conference. So what I would recommend is that you assign a co-host to a meeting. When you have a co-host in a meeting, again, you can manage this right here. You can also click on someone's video when you're in a Zoom meeting, and that will allow you to transfer or invite them to be a co-host. You can turn controls over to that person where they can kick someone out of the meeting. You can also allow them to turn off and on people so that they can talk during the meeting as well. So I think that chat is a great way to manage turning people off and on, be able to manage questions, and allow your Zoom presentation to still be interactive, but on the other side, be secure so that you're not sitting there being worried about someone taking over the screen or showing porn or drawing a dick on your face. And it seems pretty simple, like to me, to manage this. I've been teaching this. I mean, I taught this to like hundreds of business professionals. And so this is the way that you need to manage your Zoom meetings. And while there are definitely people that will do malicious things, it's very much more likely that you are sending out a bad link, or you just aren't familiar with the software in a way that it is manageable for you. Okay, well, that's my pro tip with using Zoom meetings. I hope this is helpful to some of you that are newer to the software.